I have avoided making this video for far too long. What's going on, guys? Carter here with Edge Mindset. We're taking a look at the Diatomic today. Now, why would I say that I've avoided making this video for too long? Do I not like this knife? Do I think it's not a cool knife? Do I regret adding it to my collection? Absolutely not. In fact, it is one of my favorite knives. I don't spend a lot of time trying to classify top 10 in my collection or anything, but this one is definitely up there, and it is unique for me because traditionally, when I have high value knives in my collection or knives that I kind of just keep coming back to, carrying and admiring, they're typically USA made. They're typically kind of mid-tech or less common sprint runs, things like that, right? Not full-on production knives, and usually not overseas knives. And it has nothing to do with whether it's made in the US or overseas or not. It just seems like those designs just don't hold that specialness to me. A lot of the times it just comes down to they tend to be more readily available, right? They tend to be accessible all the time, and for some reason in my worm brain, that makes me think it's not as special. But this one is an exception. I absolutely love this knife. I don't know exactly how long I've had it. If you look back through my videos, you'll see an unboxing I did on it. But I've had it for quite a while, and this one continues to impress me, despite the fact that I absolutely would not recommend this for an EDC knife or a user knife. It is very impractical for anything other than general carry, cutting, boxes, string, things like that. But let's talk about why I think it's so special and what speaks to me, as well as the things that are downright problematic on this particular knife if you actually plan to carry and use it. So let's get these specs out of the way before I jump into more detailed information about everything I just said. So overall blade length on this is 3 3/4. Overall length is about 8.5 inches. Weight on this is very, very light for its size. That is one of the cool things about this particular knife is the weight factor, 3.6 ounces. So, almost a 4-inch blade, 3 3/4 for under 4 ounces. And it's an all metal knife, right? There's no plastic or anything on here. The bearings are all metal races with silicone carbide bearings. There's no plastic or rubber or anything like that on this knife. So to get that kind of weight in a knife is it's quite the achievement. Let's do a comparison with the Remet Rhino, just because I have it close by here, nice and handy. Even though I know some of you guys have this knife out there, it's a fairly common knife. It's a very good knife. If you don't have this and you're looking for a budget knife, go ahead and snag one. And we'll do an oddball. Let's do an oddball. This is the Creature from Arcane Designs. Very similar in overall size. So if you have one of these, then you know exactly what that size is. And here's a knife that nobody has. That's not true. Some of you may have it, but not very many have it. It's a mini JK from Something Obscene Company. Really, really like this knife. Going on a tangent here. When I first got a mini JK, I didn't like it. It was too small. But it's really, really grown on me. Absolutely love this one. If you can get a hold of one, do it. So you can see it's a pretty large knife. The materials that we have are 20 CV blade steel, excellent blade steel, been around a long time, tried and true. It is a dagger ground blade. However, it's only sharpened on one side. Some of you may be saying, what? Only sharpened on one side? That's stupid. If you got a dagger blade, sharpen it on both sides. Well, two reasons why you might not want to do that. One is legal reasons. There's a lot of places that will restrict a knife that's sharpened on both sides. This will actually penetrate just as well as a knife that is sharpened on both sides. You can only cut on one side though. So really, I don't see it detracting much from usability. This still functions as a dagger, and then you can still use it for general cutting. With all dagger grind blades, especially true daggers like this, it's primarily a thrusting, penetrative type blade shape. You can see how short this bevel is right here. And that means that you're just not going to get very thin behind the edge. I mean, it is really thick behind the edge, but I would expect nothing different on a dagger ground blade. They are not slicers. But, this can open packages, cut string, do basic kind of carry around cutting that you want to do. The finish on here is a polished bead blast, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite finishes. I never liked straight bead blast. It always seemed cheap to me, but when you put a little bit of a polish on there, it really kind of gives it this nice matte kind of glimmering type finish that I really enjoy. You can see the very subtle design things on this knife, like this little notch right here. Doesn't serve a purpose. It almost seems like it's a notch for like an OTF or something. It's simply a design choice that kind of goes along with that dagger ground blade and kind of mirrors this fuller that comes up right here that kind of matches it, which is pretty cool. Handles are all titanium. You can see all of the crazy work that's done on this knife. Now it is very, very symmetrical, and you'll notice especially with the dual pocket clips. Now this one has PVD that's been stonewashed and then anodized and stonewashed bronze. There's different colorways of this knife. You can get all black. You can get Wee's kind of acid etched cool pattern black that looks really neat. I would like to get one of those one day, as well as I think silver handle and polished blade as well. Really amazing machining on this knife. Look how these gaps just melt into each other. Now this is kind of cool. As we're looking at the butt here, let me close this up so that we can get a better view. You can see those are the two screws that come in through the end that hold it together. There's no body screws, and yet this is not an integral. It is two pieces, although very thick pieces. No backspacer, front scale, back scale, but they meet here in the middle. So close to an integral in some respects, right? Because this is a pretty thick piece of titanium you're milling out on each side, but it is not an integral. But then you've got this end cap, which is all one solid piece. It's all milled out of one piece of titanium, and then it completely connects to the two scales here and holds that together, and then screws in the bottom to hold this in place. So that's what's holding this knife together. Like I mentioned before, it's running on bearings. You can see it's got two tabs for that symmetry right there. Now I will say, and I've mentioned this on another knife that goes for symmetry, why they put this cutout on the outside, I do not understand. Maybe there's an engineering reason or a logistical reason, but to me, if you're going for symmetrical design, symmetry, if you're going for symmetry, symmetricalcism, I would think you'd want to put that on the inside so that both sides would be the exact same. And the only thing you would even partially see is this cutout right here. And you can see how the cutout for the lock bar kind of is almost hidden against that pocket clip there. And then as well as the lock bar insert, I don't know why they didn't go on the inside with that so that you wouldn't see that screw there. Kind of interesting. For a knife that spent so much time and energy making it symmetrical, they kind of dropped the ball in a couple of spots. Now this may be for a legitimate reason. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a knife designer. Maybe this had to have it on the outside for some reason. But this screw should have went in on the inside, especially for a piece like this, because this was meant to win an award. Right, and it did win an award. I think the 2023 Blade Show Texas Best Production Tactical or Best Factory Tactical Knife, right? Kind of an odd category, I think, but I think it's one of those things where they had to put it somewhere, and it's such an impressive feat that they wanted that. So it's almost like, I feel like this was almost Oscar bait. Like we made this knife because they knew it would get respect and attention and potentially win an award. And that is exactly what they did. Now you may be saying, sounds like you're singing the praises of this knife up and down. What possibly would cause you to not recommend this knife? Well, the primary reason is this dual pocket clip. And I don't even care about the tip down carry. I used to. In my younger days, that was like fighting words. If anybody suggested tip down, I'm okay with it now, and I'm used to using tip down. I think it's very viable. I don't know why tip down is so overly hated. It works just fine, but it's the dual pocket clips. That's the problem, and not even so much that ergonomics or it gets in the way. Ergonomics are fine. I mean, it's just a very simple kind of barely tapers down shape here. There's no hot spots or anything. It's because you can't really index the knife, especially with these two flipper tabs. There's been so many times that I've taken this knife out and tried to open it the opposite way. And if you're using this knife, you're putting it back in your pocket, it's just extra effort to make sure, okay, I've got the blade facing forward, I'm right-handed pocket, put it in this way, so then when I pull it out, I know I can deploy it this way. If you accidentally do it backwards, you're going to pull it out, you're going to try to deploy it, it's not going to deploy. That's the main reason. You know, it's not a deal breaker, right? For general EDC cutting, you have time. I don't think most of us are in emergency situations often. But if that's something you're concerned about, where you feel like you need to pull this out quickly and not fumble around with deployment, it could be a deal breaker for you. Now, you can remove this pocket clip. However, it screws into the pivot. So the screw that holds the pocket clip on is also the pivot screw. I haven't tried to remove the clip and then put the screw back in to see if there's enough clearance to secure the pivot without the clip. But I do know that it looks goofy as hell without this pocket clip in here, and you've got a huge gap. Doesn't look good, and potentially could cause issues with the actual pivot itself. But that's really the only detraction. And for a knife like this, I didn't buy this thinking this was going to be the most practical EDC or defensive weapon I could possibly get. I got it because it is absolutely stunning looking, interesting, and every time I pick it up, I am impressed. I'm not usually somebody that loves lightweight knives. I appreciate the concept and I get the value you get from a lightweight knife, but something about how light this is, how sturdy it is, the action, the design language, it just works for me. And it is one of my top knives in my collection, and one of the knives I don't think I would actually ever let go, which is crazy because historically, I don't get that attached to knives. I'm pretty quick to sell them if I'm trying to get something else. I've been known to completely purge entire collections, entire brands, sell all my Striders, sell all my Microtechs, move on to something else. Traditionally, that's how I am, but this is a knife that I don't think I would ever let go. I like it that much. So if any of that speaks to you, check out the Diatomic. I don't know how long these are going to be around for. I've seen them pop up on sale here or there, or at least certain colorways will be on sale. In my mind, it is an absolute win. It is a banger of a knife, so check it out if it's something you might be interested in. I have no affiliation with the company. I paid for this with my own money. I don't have any discount codes or anything, but I've seen them for sale or on sale at a few different retailers if you just look around. And of course, secondary market's always the best way to go. All right, guys, I'm out. Comment down below what you think of this knife. Do you think it's as cool as I think it is? I want to know what your thoughts are. You guys take care. Appreciate you. Have a good one.